I didn't see my mother for 5 years, but when my father came back on leave, he and my mother came down to see me, and they stayed a week with me in where I was billeted then, you see.
When Mum moved into the front room of these other people's house, before I went to live with her, she said I was becoming a stranger because she was calling for me to come to see her. She would knock on the window if I was going up the street on the way somewhere, and she said to me, I would look at her rather shyly and say, no, I'm not coming. I wouldn't go in to see her because, you know, I'd been from her for quite a long time and she wasn't being like my mum anymore.
Because I was 11 coming down, well, I didn't see my mother for 5 years, which was a long time. You know, I was writing, of course, and she was writing to me. But I did go back. I decided, I think I was going on 17, and I don't know what came over me. And I thought, well, my duty is to my family. And yet still I didn't want to go back. But I said to my aunt, oh, I think I'll go back now.
It was a great joy when I used to go to sleep some nights and then in the morning, or even be woken up during the night, and my dad would come to visit because he came obviously on leave. He brought me many gifts over the years, and a doll that I cherished until I had a daughter of my own. And then I thought, oh, this doll isn't good enough for her, but I do regret parting with it. And I actually got a photograph in some studio because people didn't have cameras. I've got nothing, I've got no photograph to look back on, or just school photographs that came with me from where I stayed before in Surrey, and school photographs when we came here. People just didn't have cameras. You went to the studios and sat and paused. But yeah, there were happy times when he'd come to visit, and always I thought, oh, well, next time I'll be going home. But there we are.
Mind you, we didn't want to go home. Me and my little brother ran and hid, and so they couldn't take us back home. And it was Mrs. Jones, who I used to live with, came looking for us and said to us, no, you've got to go back to London. And I was 13 years old then, you see, and almost 14 years old.
I stayed a couple of weeks and I said, do you mind if I go back? And my father said, well, no. And he said, if you're happy, he said, he realised I think if we'd have had the same house where we were, I think I would have stayed. But it was in Seaforth, another place, and I didn't know anybody there. And I came back then. So, but my father, well, they said they didn't mind. I suppose really underneath, they would have liked me to stay, I think. So I did feel a little bit guilty about that.
Well, that's what war does to families, isn't it? It's a big wrench to be taken not only once, but a few times. Even though I'm grateful to all these people that cared for me, really grateful for the life I've had. But it shouldn't be taken away from your families.
No, I think it would be nice to say thank you to the Welsh people for looking after us during the war and giving us homes. You know, I've always said, you know, I know it was a sanctuary and there were lots of sanctuaries about, but you know, these people took us in and looked after us, and I was treated very well with my billet where I lived, treated very well. And you know, up to a couple of years ago, when the daughters passed away, they used to tell people I was their brother, and this is my, you know, Arthur was my brother, and I was just accepted. So, you know, I think you know, to say thank you to Welsh people for, you know, looking after us and giving us a way of life that I had never had and never seen, and would never have done so if it hadn't have been for the war. You know, I know the war brought misery, much more misery than I experienced, to a lot of people, But to us, it didn't do that. It gave us a new life.
I can't imagine what it would be like to have to part with a child, have them fostered for any length of time. We don't know. We don't know what went through. And could we live in a city where you're being bombed when you watch a war film? I hate sirens. If I've been to the Imperial War Museum, and to hear the sirens, terrible. So yes, I think that to a point you must let go. Doesn't matter what's happened in your life, otherwise you become embittered and you can't move on. You can't be deep down happy. You'll only find your contentment if you're able to cope with whatever's happened.
Well, I'm glad I stayed because I'm so fond of the Welsh people. I feel as though I am a Welsh woman now, even though I've got my feelings for Liverpool. I never lose them. I'm thrilled to bits when they win Liverpool. And all my grandchildren, they're all Liverpool supporters, which is amazing, you know. But I think that's the main thing. I love this place. I never like to go from here. This is my home now, and my family are here now.